What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be talking about how to pick the best half marathon training plan for you. There's three simple things you got to follow. The first is how long do you have until your goal race? Training plans come in a variety of lengths, from 12 weeks to 18 weeks. You need to find one that fits in your timeline. If you only have 12 weeks, that narrows your options quite a bit. All right, the second thing is how long you want your longest long run to be. Some training plans will go up over 13 miles. If you are just trying to survive the distance for the very first time, you may not need to do that, right? That focuses more on people that want to hit a certain time goal. You might be able to get away with just a 10-mile long run, and then on the day of the goal race, you survive the last 3 miles, and that's okay with people. It works very well. So it all depends on what your goals are there, but you want to pick a plan that fits what your expectations are for that long run. And then the third item is really an honest assessment of your current fitness. You need to go into week one of your training plan matching pretty well what that training plan is prescribing for you to do, or you run the risk of injury. So if you haven't been running at all, then you need a bare bones plan that starts from zero. If you've been running 3 miles every other day for 2 months, then you have a lot more flexibility on which plan to choose. So we're going to look at a couple of different beginner plan options. Just to give you an idea, I'll have links in the show description so you can go check them out if you want to. And let's dive in. Hal Higdon plans are tried and true. Hal Higdon is a coach. He's in his 90s now. He's been coaching forever. He's had a website with massive popularity since the internet has existed. His plans work, and they work very well. The knock on the plans is they're really aimed at beginners. So advanced runners, you may want to look for something with a little more mileage. But for beginners, they will get you to your goal race with a low chance of injury and a good chance of surviving the distance. You know, if you have certain time goals, that might not be the best option. But he does have intermediate and advanced plans you'll want to check out. They're just not as high mileage as some of the more advanced options out there. All right, so here we're looking at Hal Higdon's Novice 1 half marathon plan. You can see there's 4 runs per week, so you need to be running pretty consistently to jump into this. It's his most basic plan though, so if you're starting from scratch, week 1 could be quite a struggle. 3 days back to back can be challenging for your body to recover if you're not used to running. Even if you've been running every other day, that is a transition. I did that myself recently. And by the 3rd day, I was worried I was going to get hurt. I started feeling some shin splints and some foot pain, and I thought, oh boy, but the rest day on Friday solved it. So it worked okay for me. But so you need to be running 3 miles multiple times a week for sure. You need to be comfortable with a 4-mile long run that first week. If you are not at that level, probably say you want to go backwards and do a 5K training plan or a 10K training plan to get your weekly volume up, get used to running a little more. If you're starting from absolute zero, you definitely want to look at like the couch to 5K plan to go from short little run intervals, and they build up over time, and then you can run up to 30 minutes, and that'll get you going. Then transition into a half marathon plan. Starting from couch to half marathon can be very difficult. It's definitely doable, especially if you already have fitness in another sport, but it can be a challenge, and you run a high risk of injury. Lots of people do it. You know, the body's pretty adaptable. It's just, it can be quite a challenge and could be quite painful on race day. All right, and then you see the long run here on week 11. The highest you get up to in this plan is 10 miles. 10 miles, Hal Higdon says that's enough. If you've run 10 miles, you can run 13. That's probably true. I'm sure there's millions of people that have run with this plan successfully. The last 3 miles on race day are going to be painful. So you need to be prepared for that. You're going to struggle. You might want to walk. That's okay, right? The important thing is you're covering the distance. So if 10 miles doesn't sound like enough to you, which is a perfectly reasonable concern, then you want to look at another plan. Okay, and then this is Hal Higdon's Novice 2 half marathon training plan. It has longer long runs, but a little less mileage during the week. So you're still running 4 times a week. You still have that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday back-to-back session. But as you go on, those middle of the week runs aren't quite as long. And then the long run gets up to 12 miles on the last week before the race. So that does get you a little more prepared for the race. If you can run 12, you can certainly run 13. It's a lot closer. It's more in my comfort range. 10 miles is pretty far off of 13. 12 miles is right there. So, what's 1 mile once you've run 12? It's just 10 more minutes of pain, maybe 15 more minutes if you're having a bad day. So Hal Higdon plans are a great option. You can get them from halhigdon.com. They're totally free. You can check them out on their app as well. There's an app called Run with Hal. You can plug it in, and if you pay for the premium version, you can set blackout dates and other races, and it'll schedule around them, at least hypothetically. All right, so another option is Hansons Beginner Half Marathon Plan. Hansons is a much longer plan. It goes 18 weeks instead of 12 weeks. The biggest difference is you end up running your 12-mile long run many times. So I think on this plan, it's 4 separate times every other week. That's why the plan is much longer. But if you consider that you get to your goal race having run 12 miles 4 times over 2 months, yes, you're much better prepared to run your race. Now, the trouble with this is it is a 5-day-a-week training plan. So you need to have your running built up at a pretty high level before you start. All right, if you're just running every other day, that's 3 days a week. The jump to 5 days a week is pretty big. You run the risk of injury there. So you want to have some time in between. If you have a month or two to build up to running 5 days a week, very easy, and then jump into the plan, that can be very helpful. The other thing to consider is there is some speed work in the plan. It's not heavy, but it is in there, and so you want to make sure you're ready for that. Some people are very injury prone, and speed work is what tips them over the edge. So, if that's you, then don't do this. I think it's a very good plan overall if you have the time to dedicate, and you can survive 18 weeks of motivation and running the long run that many times in a row. Then this is a great plan. I think you'll definitely be ready for the race. Okay, and then we'll look at one more here. This is Jeff Galloway's plan from jeffgalloway.com. Now, Jeff Galloway is known for the run-walk method of long-distance running, but it's been around for a very long time. It's established. It works. There's some evidence that it works better than just, especially as a beginner, just belting out a half marathon as slowly slogging along. Your legs save some energy for the end, and you can finish a lot stronger. But to follow his training plan, you don't have to do that, right? It's just building up time and mileage the same way the other plans are. So you could absolutely just use this plan and run the whole time if you want to. So the Jeff Galloway Beginner Half Marathon Training Plan is a 3 times a week running plan. So that's questionably not enough running to get you to your goal race. It has worked for a lot of people. I think it's a really good option if you participate in other sports or do a lot of cross training. If you're elevating your heart rate multiple days a week when you're not running, then this might be all you need to get there. It is pretty low on overall weekly volume compared to most other plans, but then oddly does have a long run over the 13 miles. The long run is 14 miles 2 weeks before your goal race. So you'll be able to cover the distance. The knock on that is if you're just trying to survive your half marathon, if you're just trying to cover that distance as your goal, then running 14 miles 2 weeks before is a little misguided perhaps. But it's a really good plan. The whole thing lasts 19 weeks, but there's 2 weeks of recovery at the end after your race. That's a good idea, but most people can manage that themselves, I think. Okay, and then there are some other options other than these rigid, printed out training plans. The last few years, adaptive AI-based training plans have started to come onto the market. So these are, your Garmin watch has suggested runs every day. You can give it a goal race and it'll try to get you ready for that goal race. There's a website called Train as One. There's Humongo, and also Hal Higdon has the Run with Hal app, and I'm sure I'm leaving some out. It's a new space. I think a lot of people, including myself, I'm not terribly fond of it. I like to have more control over my racing schedule, my plan. I like to see it established in front of me so I can understand how I'm building up mileage each week and seeing the long run over time. And you just don't get that with these adaptive plans. They often only give you a week or two in advance, and they can change based on your performance, which is a good thing, but it's very confusing if you're a planner like I am. So it might lower your injury risk because if you have a bad run, you can scale it back, and your next 2 weeks might go a little easier so that you can recover if you're not keeping up with the scheduled workouts or the paces. But if you need to see that whole plan, then that's probably not a good option. You also need to be able to trust the AI. This is the thing I struggle with. I am a computer programmer in my day job, and I know that this is just a bunch of data with random algorithms stacked on it, and we're assuming it's doing what's in our best interest. But who really knows, right? And you won't find out until race day whether you're properly trained or not. And at that point, it's well too late to fix your problem. So if you have the same concern, then you might want to consider hiring a personal coach, a real person. They'll basically do the same thing. They'll plan out your time to your race. They'll understand the schedule. They can give you as much detail as you need to feel comfortable, but in reality, they're only going to give you probably a week at a time to say, do these workouts this week, and then they'll check in, see how you're doing, and they'll adjust it if they need to for the following week. So that's it. You just need to pick a plan that you can ease into without a big jump. You need to pick a plan you're confident with how long the long run is that'll get you to whatever your goal is, whether it's just finishing or accomplishing some time goal. And you need to make sure that it fits before your goal race. Well, thanks for joining me. Please like and subscribe. It means the world to me. Thanks.